Howdy folks, Timber Drifter here. A little different location for you today. I'm in my friend Ray's school bus that he converted into a house some years back. It's on a wooded lot. The woods are all the way around it, no houses visible. And the road is just close enough that I can sometimes hear traffic driving by. And I just wanted to share this place with some of you today and something about the man that owned it. Ray right now is in hospice. He has had cancer off and on for quite a few years. I think 9 or 10 years. And he's still with us right now. I don't know how long he'll be around. He's been in hospice since, most of this winter. It's now spring of 2019, a little past the middle of April. And I've spent quite a bit of time this winter going through his things, and his brother and I and another friend going through Ray's stuff and getting rid of things and getting things where they need to go and figuring out what to do with a lot of stuff while he's still around to ask what he wants done with it, or what it is even. So it's been a bit of a melancholy winter, but spring is brightening me up and the landscape too. For him, it started out as prostate cancer, and he had various treatments. And like I said, he had a few good years here and there, and quite a few good years. He'd be healthy for a while, and then it would show up somewhere else, and he'd have another treatment, and it just kind of progressively got worse. But it hit him kind of all at once. He had quite a few years where there wasn't much change, and then last fall it really hit him. But this property was really important to him. And before he started becoming a hospital and then a hospice dweller, this was where he lived for a bit over a year. But Ray and I met in spring of '07. We were both working for the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources. He'd been working there for quite a few years, and I had just started that spring. And we were both living in the state dormitory, which is a big old stone building that they rented out to seasonal employees for a pretty nominal fee. I first met Ray when I was picking my room out. He came strutting down the hallway, big tall guy, big long gray beard and big straw hat on. Introduced himself as a retired hippie. I never really knew what he meant by that. I don't know if he was retired from being a hippie or what. But we ended up working together also for a couple of years. So we lived together for 6 to 9 months a year and worked together every day. And though we immediately got along, we're also both strong personalities, so we had quite a lot of arguing and bickering in the truck while we were working the first bit of the first season there. But we spent so much time together, we became real close, and I've stayed close all these years. I consider him a member of my family. But I quit working there in 2014, and he had kind of retired and gone on to other things in 2012. And over the years, Raid owned a lot of properties, a lot of little cabins and interesting pieces of land in various parts of Wisconsin and the UP, the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. I'd say probably more than anything else, real estate has been his hobby. And he even worked in that field for a little bit, working for a guy that set up land contracts for people. Ray would find the properties and he'd buy them, and sometimes Ray'd find the people to set up on a land contract. And he's told me several times that those were some of his happiest years living in the UP, just dealing with properties. But he eventually ended up living in our kind of big town around here. It's only a few thousand people. It's kind of a dirty old paper mill town. A lot of characters there. And he liked it. Very social guy. He's the kind of guy that, well, let me think about this for a second. He'll talk to anybody. He'll start a conversation with anybody. I couldn't go anywhere in town around here with him without having to talk to 5 or 6 different people, most of them women. But when we were living together, we often went grocery shopping together because it was, at that time, it was pretty common that neither one of us or only one of us had a decently running vehicle, so we often rode into the grocery store together. So I'd have to kind of, either we shop together or I'd have to round him up at a certain point to get back. And several times I thought, where the hell has he gotten to now? Look all over the store, and eventually I'd hear him laughing or something and find him dancing with some woman that he didn't even know in an aisle in the grocery store. But eventually moved into our kind of bigger town around here, and he enjoyed it for the most part. Got involved with our local radio station and hosted several music programs, including Blues Fridays. Loved music. I think he was 17 when he attended the original Woodstock. He has some stories about that and meeting Jimi Hendrix, and ran into that guy again a few years later. And he got to see a lot of those bands, a lot of the classic bands. But we were both big Neil Young fans, so if we ended up cruising around together, we were usually listening to Neil Young. But after living in that town for a while and suspecting, if not knowing, that he had a limited time frame, he just didn't want to live in town anymore. He always liked little cabins in the woods, and the bills were kind of ridiculous for as little energy and water as he was using. they seemed pretty high to him, and things were stressing him out. And he was looking for an escape hatch. And he found this property which had been burnt over probably around a decade ago in a wildfire. One of the neighbors left their outdoor wood burner open, and it caused a forest fire. And the fire went right through the middle of this property and killed a lot of the trees. So the property was pretty cheap. And he was able to pick it up relatively cheap and get set up here. And that first summer that he got it, we spent a lot of time. He spent a lot of time, and I occasionally was here just walking the property and looking at it and deciding what he wanted to do with it. And for him, he wanted a school bus. He'd lived in a couple of school buses in the woods over the years. And he wanted to do that again. He really wanted to live in a school bus in the woods, so he kind of scrimped and saved and hustled and looked around until he found one and got it set up and had it moved out here. And he had a shed built and an outhouse and had those moved out here, and I was here for that. And since there was so much dead standing wood from the forest fire that had come through, we spent quite a few days felling, cutting, and splitting and stacking wood here, he and I and another friend of ours. In fact, we were out here the day after the last presidential election, and we were joking about how we were making the country better again by living off-grid in the woods. Joking about how we're so live so far down economically that we're not even part of the economy. That was a good day. And just from the wood that was on this property, we got a big long firewood pile set up, and it lasted him most of that winter that he lived out here. He did have to buy some more wood. But it was his dream to live off-grid in a school bus on his own property, again, like he had before, one last time. And he was able to do that, and he was able to actually live here in this school bus on this property for one full turn of the seasons, a full year. And that's pretty important. It was important to him, and I was glad he was able to do it, and I was glad the place was here for me to come hang out too sometimes. It's a bit of a drive from where I live. But I have quite a connection to this property now too. But this land being burnt over, kind of had the desire to set up here and try to heal the land and heal himself. And to some extent he did that, if only in a spiritual way. But there's an important lesson there. You know, he knew that he had a time frame to act in while he was still feeling decent. And he pulled it off. He did it. And some people relate the school bus idea to Christopher McCandless, and Ray was interested in that fella, and we both watched the documentary movie and read the books. But and he did want to die in this bus. Unfortunately, that has not been possible. But it doesn't have anything to do with Chris McCandless. And you say Ray lived in school buses well before that fellow, and it's not really related, but people will make that connection. But I was just cleaning out stuff in here. Another friend of mine has bought this property, which is a good thing. Another friend of Ray's also. We're kind of keeping it in the family, so to speak. So I was just cleaning out some of the last of Ray's stuff while I was here today. And one of the things I found is any of the places that he's lived since I've known him, he's had either a handwritten note or a printout hanging on the wall or the fridge or whatever. And it says the measure of a mind's evolution is its acceptance of the unacceptable. I was just looking at that and thinking about it. I suppose that he's really testing that now. Because what is more unacceptable to us than our own death? That's a hard one to accept, and I'm not there. However, it is the one unique human experience. Not even human, really. It's everything's experience. Everything dies. Everything will die. All of us will die. Everyone you know will die. And that sounds heavy and it sounds depressing, but it shouldn't. It's the way that it works. It's just the way that it works. Always has been that way. At least in this frame of reality. So I suppose he's really testing that now himself. The measure of a mind's evolution is its acceptance of the unacceptable. I'm going to see him later today. I'm going to ask him about that. But spring is washing over the land. The snow is melting. It's almost gone. It's only in the deepest parts of the woods. Things aren't greening up yet, but they will be soon. And the renewal is here. And it works the same way with the land that it does with us and every other living creature. You know, it's just that circle of renewal. Birth, growth, death, and renewal. And with my other friend purchasing this property, and it's his now, and he's starting to bring some of his stuff here, and we're getting him set up. It just feels that way. You know, spring has come on, and the new guy's taken over, and it's not an out with the old and in with the new kind of thing. That's too black and white. It's too final. Because after my buddy's done with this place, someone else will have it. And the land will just keep doing what the land does and all the things that live on it, including us. Whether we understand that we're part of it or not, we are. So I suppose because there are no guarantees in this life other than death, that it would seems rather important to me, and I know it was to Ray, and this proves it. This property proves it, that it's important to do what you want to do, what you need to do, what's important to do while you can, and don't waste the time that you're given. It's inevitable that all of us will waste a lot of our time. But if we're conscious about it, we can make good choices and do the things we need to do and want to do. Make time for it. So, this is Ray and his one-eyed dog sitting in the rocking chair I'm sitting in right now. Another thing I ran across in here today was one of Ray's old business cards from his old business called Realities Unlimited. I'm going to show you around quick. That's the chair. Give you a look at the bus. It's an old early 60s International. And I suppose if there's one thing that Ray would want you to know, would be kind of what his catchphrase has always been since I've known him. And that's cool is the rule. And take with that what you will. Kind of means a lot of different things, but mostly it just means be cool. Don't sweat the small stuff. So, y'all take care. Hope you get a chance to get outside.